Greetings, I'm Kathryn and this is Genealogy with a Canadian Twist weekly webinar recap. It's a recap of our weekly webinars on looking for ancestors, where I help you find your ancestors in Canada. Now, this recap is exactly that, a short video segment highlighting what we covered in this week's webinar. And these are free tutorial webinars that are made available just about every week on Thursdays in North America. And that would be Friday if you're on the other side of the world in Australia and New Zealand. You can sign up below and find all the links there on how to do that. And we're going to head on in to looking at what we covered this week for episodes 24 and 25. So episode 24, we covered border entry records. And for episode 25, we had a special guest. We had Luana Darby, and she was helping us with researching our French-Canadian ancestors in Quebec. So this week, we had double the webinars, double the fun, and double the learning. Sit back, relax, and enjoy two highlights from both webinars this week. So here we see here, I love this photo. It was taken from 1941. And look how just staunch and stern the border crossing agents are. And that's actually not even border crossing agents. It's a RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer, and a state trooper. And, you know, it used to be so easy to cross the international border between Canada and the United States. But, you know, myself, all of you, we've all experienced those changes that have happened with crossing the border, especially since September 11th, 2001. And so it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more formal. You have to make sure you have all the right documentation now in order to cross the border. But it wasn't always that way. And for our ancestors, it was actually fairly easy to cross the border, far more easier than it is today. So why do people cross the border? Why do people cross the border today? Why do you cross the border? I just told you a little bit a while ago why I cross the border. I live at a border city. So entertainment, shopping, visiting family, visiting friends. I go to Family History Society meetings in Michigan and Detroit. What are some of the reasons why you crossed the border? And then what were some of the reasons our ancestors crossed the border? There's probably a lot of similarities. Our ancestors crossed the border for a lot of the same reasons we do. Some of those reasons include immigration. What about employment and opportunity? Vacation. How many of you have crossed the border to go on a vacation? What about visiting family, shopping, or in some cases, you're just passing through? I know for myself, if I'm heading up to Sarnia, Ontario, it's far shorter time-wise and travel-wise, distance-wise, for me to travel through Michigan to get up to Sarnia than it is to go the Canadian side. And so that's another reason why your ancestors or you yourself might just be passing through. Now, border entry records were also immigration records for those coming permanently to Canada by train, car, or ferry. And again, Canada began recording names of immigrants crossing into the country from the United States in April of 1908. These records are official immigration records for Canada, and no other immigration records or files exist for those border ports. Immigrants arriving in non-port cities or when the ports were closed were not likely registered, and returning Canadian citizens were not recorded. Now, the late 19th and early 20th centuries brought changes to employment in Canada. Manufacturing and factories were opening up in cities, and homesteading opportunities on the prairies in Western Canada. So here we have a record, a border crossing record for August 3rd, 1930. And this was less than a year into the Great Depression. And here we have men from Virginia and North Carolina crossing the border for the harvest. And they're crossing into Bridgeburg, Ontario, by the International Bridge. All of them have been granted admission for 2 months. And most of these men were headed to Delhi, Tillsonburg, and Simcoe, Ontario to work the tobacco harvest. How many of you have farmers who were living in the United States during the Great Depression?
Time period.
Look and see.
So we're going to talk a little bit about my journey. I'm going to do this a little bit differently and kind of show you a little bit of the journey that I took and some of the records that I used. This is by no means all of the records. There are so many more records you can use in Quebec, but this is my journey. So this is a death certificate of Alexander Dequan. And he was in the Soldiers' Home in the state of Michigan, and not a whole lot of information. If you notice up here, it tells me that he was born in New York. Well, not quite. In some of the records, it does say he was born in Canada, and you'll see that in just a moment from his pension record. And we had to put them all together and kind of sort things out. If you notice, his father's name is T. Dequan, and his mother is Marie McCobb. And she was actually born in Canada as well, but she lives in New York. So this is what we had to start with. And now we're going to show the connection between this gentleman, which is Alexander's father, and his name is Pierre Théophile Dequan. He is our key guy, and he's the one that was actually tried and hung in Canada. It's a real fun story to be able to have. This is Alexander, my husband's direct relative that we started with. And this is his certificate of disability for discharge. And if you noted about it here, about 4 lines up, it says he was born in Napial in the state of Canada. Well, you kind of had to pick that apart. It's Napierville, which is near Montreal. And we kind of said, wait a minute. One said New York. This one says Napier in Canada. Which one is it? Well, we found another one here. And if we go down to near the bottom, it says he was born in Plattsburgh, Clinton County, New York. Oh dear. Now we have all these different places to sort through. But if you noticed on his last several places of residence since leaving the service at the bottom, he does say he was in Michigan, Oregon, and then in Canada in 1863 and 1864, a part of the Civil War. So it was kind of, intriguing. What can we find on this guy? He's born in New York, and then he's born in Canada. Now he's born back in New York. So we started going on a search, and I had a gut feeling that he was probably born in Canada because his father was. And so we started looking. So one of the places we use to get some information, and this is just what I've used now to supplement, is the Library and Archives National of Quebec. Now, this is a wonderful resource if you are doing research in Quebec at all. And this one I have translated. And I want you to notice up at the very top right-hand corner, it says Français. Up at the top, I've gone ahead and clicked on the English button so that we can read this, because I don't know who exactly is in my audience and who reads French. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to read this. And you can do the entire site this way, except for when you get to the records themselves. You can translate it. You can also translate if you're using Google Chrome, it will ask you, do you want to translate this page? It recognizes foreign words, and in Google Chrome will send you to Google Translate and be able to translate the page so that you can maneuver through these pages with more ease. So where you really want to look at will be the Explore Our Contents page. And this Explore Our Contents page will give you, and I was unable to get a screenshot of this, but it will give you a lot of different categories, and it will say family history and genealogy, and that is the part of the site you want to go to. Once you hit the family history and genealogy page, you'll get something that looks a little bit like this. And if you can see off to the left-hand side, the different kinds of records that we have available through the archives in Quebec. You have your civil archives, you've got cemetery, coroner records, you've got notary records, which are phenomenal. You have prison records. Yes, I did find the Daquan family there. Censuses and courts. So, although a lot of people go to Library and Archives Canada for most of their research, I don't want people to forget to come to this wonderful resource, the the Library and Archives of Quebec, because it is a wonderful place to go.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Episode 24, Just Across the Border, and episode 25, Researching Your French-Canadian Ancestors in Quebec. Now, if you would like to join us for the full weekly webinars that we have just about every week on Thursdays and Friday, depending on where you are in the world, you can find the links down below to sign up for our free weekly mailing list, and that will give you all the information about how to access and register for the weekly webinars. Now, if you enjoyed today's webinar, please subscribe if you haven't already to this channel. Give us a thumbs up and click like if you found this video useful, and be sure to check out some of our other videos. And until next time, have fun looking for ancestors.